Look, I am fascinated with the amount of add-ons that one could bring into a TRT regimen. In fact, like coaching over the years for 6 years doing this with TRT, I've seen that the best protocols have a bunch of ancillaries. I mean, look, whether that's tocotrienols for hair loss or GHKCU, or it's fish oil to control blood pressure, or tadalafil for slightly better erections and for blood pressure, obviously HCG, aromatase inhibitors, DHT derivatives. The people that have figured out how to bring all these things in the right doses for them have the best TRT protocols. There's just no question about that. Estrogen is the primary hormone that you really need to keep an eye on in order to stay dialed in on TRT. Now, for some people, that's not going to be a problem, but for others, it's just a problem regardless, even if it's like at 45 and maybe it needs to be at 35 because they're on little lower doses of testosterone. And I've always said, if we could make a drug that wasn't as powerful as pharmaceutical aromatase inhibitors, because they're not made for TRT. They're made too powerfully for these other serious conditions like breast cancer. But if we made a drug that could lower estrogen just a little bit and keep people in their threshold, so they have erections every morning, erections during sex, they're horny, they have great sensation, the whole system functions really well, then that would be a multi-billion-dollar drug. As it turns out, though, looking at all the ancillaries, we actually have a few drugs that are exactly that. And yes, I'm referring to DHT derivatives, Masteron, Primobolan, but specifically Proviron. Look, Proviron does lower estrogen, and I'm going to break it down. There are references in the literature, and there's definitive evidence that Proviron lowers estrogen. But the point I want to make in this video is that Proviron is perhaps one of the best add-ons that you could ever bring into a testosterone replacement therapy regimen in the world. And no, if you run it year-round, it's not going to tank your SHBG into oblivion to where you don't fill your androgens. Stop listening to the fearmongers. So sit back, boys, strap in, because I'm going to break down evidence as well as an argument for Proviron as an estrogen control agent as a great add-on for a better experience on TRT. Listen, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs is a performance optimization and hormone consulting company for men. We got a range of different products ranging from nootropics to coaching with me. Most popular product right now, and a product that is buy one, get one free for only about a week longer, is the Torque Nootropic Stack. I built it. It's like Adderall without the side effects. Code is in the description of this video. It's torquebogo. Get a bottle, you get one free. I'm a coach on TRT protocol redesign, among other things, just generally getting your protocol straight regarding hormones, add-ons, ancillaries, optimizing erectile function, libido. That is my specialty, and you can hire me in under a minute for a variety of different packages at livecortex.com. All right, so the bottom line is, yeah, like as I said in the intro, it would be great if we just had a drug that could lower estrogen just a little bit to keep us in that sweet spot range where the sexual system worked really well, we felt well, we didn't have any estrogenic side effects, but it wasn't extreme, didn't take estrogen below 20 and have us with problems. And while maybe over the next 20 years, pharmaceutical companies will invent a drug like this that is targeted specifically to lowering estrogen just a little bit, we do have available to us DHT derivatives. And one of the things, I'll just cut to the chase, one of the things that have been able to dial in people's protocols that I've worked with that haven't been able to dial in on Aromasin, on Arimidex, on TRT HCG, like just nothing they do gets everything working, not just energy and anabolism and all this stuff, but the sexual system really, really primed. A low dose of Proviron, okay, otherwise known as Masterolone, which is a DHT derivative that binds, has a high affinity for the SHBG, but also has a high affinity for the aromatase enzyme, solves their problems and gets them a better TRT protocol, the point where they're finally dialed in. Now, if you look hard enough, you will find that Proviron acts as an aromatase inhibitor. Let's take us to a paper titled Rapid Determination of Anti-Estrogens by Gas Chromatography, Mass Spectrometry, and Urine, Method Validation and Application to Real Samples, within which they state, according to their pharmacological properties, substances with anti-estrogenic activity can be classified in aromatase inhibitors, and they've got anastrozole, exemestane, formastane, letrozole, some of the really powerful ones, selective estrogen receptor modulators, or SERMs like raloxifene, tamoxifen, and then substances with secondary anti-estrogenic activity like drostanolone and Masterolone. Masterolone is the drug name for Proviron. Probably the most cut and dry paper that has an actual statement that Proviron acts as an aromatase inhibitor is this paper titled Influence of Masterolone on Satellite Cell Distribution and Fiber Morphology with the Maturing Chicken Pectoralis Muscle. We're all the way down in the paper. It says, in addition, Masterolone has a high binding affinity for the enzyme aromatase that converts other steroids into estrogen, even though it does not undergo ring aromatization to estrogen. Now, it is unclear whether or not Proviron is a mechanism-based aromatase inhibitor, which is our, steroid inhibitors that mimic the substrate. So they would essentially mimic a substrate that is used to be converted by aromatase into estradiol, are converted by the enzyme aromatase to a reactive intermediate compound, and result in inactivation of aromatase. I think I've heard Vigorous Steve talk about primobolan being one of those that it basically latches onto the aromatase enzyme, gets converted to an intermediate, and that intermediate sort of shuts down the aromatase enzyme temporarily. So to me, I mean, looking at all the literature, it's unclear if Proviron acts in this way or it basically just binds and inhibits it directly. But I think if you want to validate this, you really ought to look at people's individual experiences. These are people that are reporting on this, that have bloods that show that Proviron lowered their estrogen. Here's one. Proviron does all the things I wanted to do with very little downsides. 25 milligrams a day added to a blast of NPP helps me mentally balance and mask symptoms of high E2, thus lowering my ASIN requirement. What he really means is that he's preventing estrogen from rising above a certain range. There's no masking of estradiol. I mean, even blocking it at the genetic expression level with actual DHT isn't necessarily going to mask the effects or prevent the effects at like penile tissue and inducing crappy erections, as an example. Yeah, you're still going to need to get that actual estrogen at the tissue level down a little bit. Another one, 100% my favorite ancillary. I run Proviron year round and it helps reduce the estrogenic load of my TRT to the point where I don't need an AI on 200 milligrams of test and 500 IU of HCG. Improves my testicular function, blah, 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 and overall volume of semen. Again, we've talked about this because DHT and DHT derivatives have a positive effect on seminal vesicles, which are effectively the organs that produce the ejaculate liquid, right? The stuff that's really coming out. I've experienced a profound enhancement in not only orgasm intensity, like the sensation of climaxes, but also the quantity of ejaculate just from taking DHT in the form of androstenedione gel. Another thread titled Proviron as a potential AI, in which a user goes, took my E2 down by a huge margin. It's very much known to reduce your estradiol. Other guy, yes, it's preferable to Arimidex. And that's the truth. I've heard Vigorous Steve say this as well, and many other people, that DHT derivatives are preferable over aromatase inhibitors. And in my opinion at this point, I just can't with a good conscience suggest people use aromatase inhibitors over DHT derivatives. If you have to use them to dial in, fine, got to use them, right? But if you have access to DHT derivatives, they are much better, including Proviron. But I know what people are thinking. And this is the comment that I get all the time. And it's somewhat annoying because it's just people repeating what other people have said on the web without validating the stuff that, on their own, or maybe running it for a year straight to see if it actually tanks SHBG. People are so afraid that Proviron is going to lower their SHBG, and then suddenly the injectable testosterone that they're putting in their bloodstream is not going to be available to their body via not enough SHBG to transport the testosterone to tissues. This is just not true. Sure, you could lower SHBG to the point where it's problematic if you're loading 50 to 75 to 100 milligrams of Proviron every day because you're on some crazy test cycle or whatever cycle. Maybe you could crush your SHBG in that regard. But I have, and I want to make this super clear so that people truly understand. I've got scores of clients with 7, 9, 13, 18 SHBG. Zero problems, guys. Okay. That isn't to say that's going to be everybody, but not everyone that lowers SHBG is going to have some catastrophic problem. Okay. This guy here, we glanced over this before in sort of a different context. Think about what he says in the beginning. 100% my favorite ancillary. I run Proviron year round. Okay. So here's a guy running Proviron every day, year round, with no problems in the sexual system. It usually only improves the sexual system so long as you don't take the estrogen too fucking low. Another one, in the steroid subreddit, I like to run Proviron year round at 50 milligrams daily. During a bulk, I may bump up to 75 or 100 milligrams. I take it for the slight anti-aromatase properties and the increase in test utilization. Also, it's an oral that's not liver toxic. Okay, so this guy has the right idea. Again, you're going to find this all over the place. I've got clients of mine, lots of them, not just a few, like 7 or 8, probably 30, 40 people that run Proviron year round. You know why? It's the only drug they can take They don't want to be bringing in Masteron or Proviron, which would probably work also. That is easy. It's an oral, doesn't give them side effects, low estrogen side effects, but keeps estrogen in their perfect range. And then they've got sexual function. They've got enhanced climax sensation, enhanced erectile quality, enhanced ejaculate volume. The whole system just works a lot better. So yes, if you're, I know there's going to be people comment in the comment section, what about SHBG? Please go listen to the last 3 minutes or 4 minutes, however, of this video. Yes, it's usually not a problem so long as you're not tanking it too low and you're not one of those unlucky individuals that responds very poorly to very low SHBG. Now, here's the crazy part. Let's talk about dosing Proviron as an AI. The crazy thing about it is that because it's so effective, and if you're concerned like about any of this SHBG stuff, it's pretty useful at 12.5 milligrams a day. That 12.5 to 25 milligrams, even if you split it up, 12.5 in the morning, 12.5 milligrams in the evening of Proviron on top of TRT or higher dose TRT. This is usually enough to keep estrogen in the sweet spot without fucking with SHBG to some significant extent, and to keep people dialed in. At various times when I was running high dose TRT with testosterone propionate, I'm talking about 80 milligrams every other day or 40 milligrams a day, I used Proviron just a little bit, 12.5 milligrams in the morning, sometimes 12.5 milligrams in the evening. It all really depended on what was happening downstairs. And that was perfect estrogen control. Perfect estrogen control, where I had rock hard boners, I was horny all the fucking time, everything functioned well, and I had no estrogenic problems. But I would suggest that, if you can get your hands on it, running a basic TRT protocol with TRT, testosterone at 120 to 180 milligrams, which is kind of where most people seem to fall. I think you're probably going to have a better experience on 200 or 250, though, if I'm being honest, with the addition of 12.5 milligrams of Proviron in the morning and the potential, you'll have to dial in and figure that out, for 12.5 milligrams of Proviron in the evening, or an entire 25 milligrams just daily in the morning. Again, people are going to have to dial that in. That's going to be such a useful ancillary, one of the best add-ons that you could ever consider bringing into TRT, because you don't have to take an aromatase inhibitor. You don't have to worry about estrogen control. You got your Proviron, and you get additional androgenic benefit that facilitate like more pop in your muscles, easier fat loss, a generalized masculine feeling that you may not get on TRT exclusively, and also optimizations to the seminal vesicles and thus ejaculate volume and quantity, as well as climax sensation, general sensation, obviously erectile function, libido, all these things. Now listen, people are going to tell you that Proviron or Masteron are better than Proviron because they don't have the same effect on SHBG. And while the first part of that might be true for some people, that Primo might be better for you, just an injectable once or twice a week, or however you want to dose, some modest dose of Proviron might be perfect for you. But keep in mind, these compounds also do affect the SHBG and lower it, likely not to the effect or the, as much as Proviron does, but they do as well. And they could be equally, dramatically lowering of SHBG. I've seen that on blood work. So we really have Masteron, Proviron, as the best DHT derivatives to bring in, best add-ons for TRT to keep estrogen in that sweet spot where everything functions well. But I got to tell you, man, after seeing this case over and over and over again, people can't dial in, we bring in a little bit of Proviron. Doesn't have to be a lot. And then people are dialed in and they get additional benefits. Proviron is both anti-estrogenic and works very fucking well with TRT. And you should let your testosterone dose determine the dose of Proviron that you want to use, as well as your experience. I mean, you might determine that, like, again, 12.5 in the morning and 12.5 in the evening is like perfect, even on a 400 or 500 milligram testosterone dose. I've seen that work as well. But, for guys on lower doses, one of the things that may happen or tends to happen is if you're running 25 every day, but you're only on 120 milligrams testosterone, it might be good for a week and things will be like radically awesome. But then you're going to have some low estrogen side effects, which affect the sexual system negatively as well. So you might, in that case, want to think about just 12.5 a day, maybe 12.5 every other day, or something like 6.25 or whatever per day. So you got to be careful with that. It's all about finding your dose, which is the case in everything regarding TRT, whether it's HCG, Arimidex, or Aromasin, the testosterone itself, all the supplement add-ons like fish oil, the drug add-ons like tadalafil. You have to find the right dose. But when you do, okay, this is going to solve a lot of people's problems on TRT. It does so all across the web. Proviron does have anti-estrogenic activity that is proven in the literature. It is not going to tank your SHBG to the point where you can't deliver androgens to tissues. And I am super fascinated with highly effective add-ons to testosterone protocols, and Proviron is one of them. Boys, look, if you need to dial in your TRT protocol, I've been doing this for 6 years. I mean, I've seen every situation under the sun, and I know how to get to the bottom of the most common problems that people experience on testosterone. It actually is easy once you understand how to deal with it, and specifically what to do in what situations. You can hire me for a TRT specific protocol redesign. We've got that option at livecortex.com. If you need ongoing work, if there's some major sexual dysfunction or otherwise issue, hire me for 3 months, 6 months, or a longer term program. That's where we get the most work done. If you've got the budget, yeah, I'll get you out of whatever hole you're in. That is my job. Hire me in under a minute, livecortex.com. Listen, Torque Nootropics Act. This is Adderall without the side effects, comparable to modafinil. Buy one, get one free right now. That's lasting another week. Okay, so that special is going to end soon. Code for that is torquebogo. Get it down in the description of this video. The code is down there as well. Go get a bottle. I mean, you are going to love this stuff, and you're not going to want to run out of it. Trust me. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Much more content coming soon. Live stream coming this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you look forward to that. Sub to the channel. Hit the like button. Makes a huge difference. And boys, I will talk to you on the next one.